Well, welcome back, folks, to the USTA Georgia 2020 Virtual Awards ceremony. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we can't get together in person. You know, Bill, normally we're at a great hotel, the JW. Right about now, we've got the salads coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Gearing up for Sam Crenshaw's great speeches that I wrote, of course, that put everybody to sleep. Thankfully, he outlived that, but unfortunately, we can't be together this year. But this, I think, is the next best thing. And joining us today is the 2020 USTA Georgia Ruth Ryner Lay Award for Lifetime Achievement recipient, the legend himself, Bill Ozaki. Bill, how you doing?
I'm good.
Well,
I'm
Bill,
very honored to receive this award.
Yeah, Bill, this is, as you probably know, the highest honor that our association gives to anyone. Some of the names that have won this before are people I know that you have a lot of history and interaction with, people like Peter Howell, Barbara Berman, Elaine Hamilton, who was formerly our executive director. Of course, your boss for a long time, John Callan, is an award winner. And last year, the great Savannah tennis influencer, Leslie Shields, was our recipient. So certainly, Bill, you're consistently right in line with all these recipients, people that have given their life to our sport. When you found out you were receiving this award, maybe what was the first thing that flashed through your mind?
Well, I thought back to Ruth because Ruth was a mentor and a great friend, really, and to all of us right around in that time, the younger pros, and that's what I thought of, how honored I was to get this award that was named after Ruth.
Yes, it's again well-deserved, and you join a great list of people that have had so much influence, not just here in Georgia, but throughout Southern and in your case, of course, throughout the United States. But you have a very interesting tennis history or tennis story, right? You were down in South Georgia. As you said one time, you were the third best player in the state once you went to the state tournament and realized that Betsy Butler and
Horace Reed
were there, so it kind of pushed you down the pedestal. But you were a great player, played college tennis. So what got you started in tennis? Being down in South Georgia, certainly maybe a football crazed area. What gravitated you to the tennis sport?
It was a couple of things. Of course, it was in South Georgia, and then our school was so small, we all had to play football, and we played both ways. Otherwise, it probably almost weren't enough for a team. So. But fairly early, I realized that after getting put in the hospital a few times by a good friend of mine, by the way, in practice, I said, I don't think I'm going to play this later, so I need to find something else. I actually played a lot of golf and tennis in between the high school sports, football, basketball, baby. We just went season to season. So a lot of golf, played a little bit actually with on Jekyll Island with who became pretty good later, although he was younger than us, Andy Bean. And his dad was the golf pro there. So, but tennis, and interestingly enough, in Woodbine, there were 3 courts, 2 at the high school and a grass court right down the street the county agent had in his backyard next to the chicken coop. So when we were young, we'd play there a lot with Mr. Nelson, and he'd beat us. He knew where all the holes were in his yard. And he, as soon as we could beat him, though, we didn't get invited anymore to his court. So then we played at the high school. There were a couple of people there that were pretty good. Always played on the weekends mostly, and but a fair amount of play for a town of only about 300 people. So interestingly enough, so and then that later in high school, I focused on just tennis after I think I was a junior. When the other sport, I knew the other sports weren't going to pan out later on probably. So. And I was fortunate enough to have a coach that came, an English teacher that came, who was actually experienced in tennis, George Gray, and he coached me every day, literally. So that's kind of what, really started things taking off. And I started playing in Jacksonville and Jekyll Island, places like that, more competition and all. So, yeah.
Did you enjoy playing on the grass court when the wind was a certain direction? Next to the chicken coop?
Yeah, that was an issue there. When the wind blew and the chickens were always in there, it was tough playing. And court was sloped; it had little divots in it. It seemed like he could hit them all the time. Sure. Mr. Nelson always wore pants and had a reverse twist serve. So I remember we'd start playing him. When we were pretty young. I'm thinking 7, 8, 9 years old, and he would just unmerciful to us, wouldn't even give us a point.
Right.
But it was
Right.
good for us, so.
Yeah, he's got that local knowledge. One of our great clubs in the South is Piermont Oaks in Shreveport. I know you've been there many times.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I mean, you're
Sure.
well aware, right, of the little lower part of court 4 where if you hit it, the ball just sticks. Tell our players
That's
aim
right.
for that because there's no way it's coming back.
It ball rolls there. It doesn't even
Yeah,
bounce at all. So
yeah, you win the point. Exactly. So then after your playing days, you were great players, of course. You decided to go into the teaching profession. Did you have a mentor that pushed you that way, or was it something that you maybe always wanted to do?
I don't know. I had a good friend that I played doubles with, Steve Wilkinson, and we actually talked together at an early age there. So, interestingly, one of my first jobs was at East Lake. There was an indoor tennis center at East Lake where the golf course is now. And in the winter, it was one of the few, almost the only indoor. I think there was one at Cumberland, one of the only indoor courts where the public could come. So, we had tournaments there, and I had quite a bit of play and a lot of lessons there. And we had a tournament, and I know Rodney Harmon and Benny Sims came from Texas Southern and played again, and Gary Plott came from Kentucky, and all the Georgia guys came, Bill Kopecky, and all those guys came over and played this tournament, and it was quite a tournament. So that that kind of got things started there. Primarily, in the teaching business.
Well, we have a lot in common. Of course, our backgrounds having. I was in Southern California for a long time, kind of doing your position in Southern. But one thing we don't have in common is you were a club owner. I can't say that I ever did that. So, was it because of maybe to get a place for your kids to play and kind of have you be there and be part of their tennis development? What was the reason why you're like, you know what, I'm not only going to teach you, I want to own this place.
It really was, and the club business is tough. I mean,
Yeah.
Around the same time, Jerry bought Club Pinecrest. I think it was a part of Indian Hills, and Jerry Baskin, good friend, and we were colleagues. He was another one in the early days. We conversed a lot. Our kids were close to the same age, and talked about them. And Craig, of course, was a great player, and Kelly. But so he bought the club and told me. He said, I bought this club and I only coach juniors now.
Right.
And he was having a the adults took a lot of time. But, the adult business in Atlanta, of course, is great for teaching pros. I mean, the Alta teams first and the USTA teams, and it made up a tremendous amount of our income. So, but you're right, at the club I was at, Hidden Hills, which was a great club. I still see members from there, and all the kids that I taught there had a Zoom call back in December, kind of reunion. That was pretty neat. And Paige Love set it up,
Sure.
or Paige Bombach rather set it up, and she was the only girl there, by the way. So one of the only girls. But the schedule was full. So you're teaching 75 hours a week, and then as my children got a little bit older, I wasn't sure they were going to play tennis because a lot of tennis pros would steer them to other sports. And so, but then when they decided they wanted to play, I really didn't have any time slots for them. Everything in the afternoon was full. So the chance to buy a small club nearby, it was called Circle Stone, then came up. So we bought it. It had a pool, only 4 courts, but and I still taught adults, but all the juniors in the afternoon. But I plugged our kids' lessons in first, and then did drills after that. And so did that for 5 or 6 years until I came to work for Southern.
So other than myself, of course, just kidding. I know a lot of people have influenced you over the years and made you what you became and you are today, but maybe 2 people you can briefly talk about. One, you've already mentioned, Jerry Baskin, arguably one of the greatest coaches, not just here in Georgia, but in the United States. A certain style, but a fantastic coach. And then maybe Branch Curington, I know was very near and dear to you, Georgia Hall of Famer. Can you talk about maybe the relationship you had with those 2 guys and how it kind of helped you mold to the success that you became in the sport?
Sure. Probably Branch first, because he
Sure.
was the first one impacted. The other fellow I mentioned, Steve, and I bought a stringing machine. We actually drove up to Marshall University one night and picked it up because they were hard to come by. And we had a stringing machine, so we had a stringing business. But at that time, we couldn't get string because the companies wouldn't open accounts for us. So we had met Branch through some tournaments at Washington Park, and Branch sold string to us. And otherwise, we probably couldn't have survived in the stringing business. Started playing there a little more and meeting more of the people. But being around Branch, it's funny. I was just thinking about that the other day. I was actually thinking about Dr. Walter Young, who is, I saw Andrew Young on TV, but his brother Walter, who was a dentist and a very good friend of Branch's, and being around Branch there and all the kids that came out, a lot of kids came out. And after he got to know me, he would tell me some stories about some of the kids and how he basically took care of them almost the whole time that they were in grade school. And any of them needed dental care. The reason I mentioned Dr. Walter Young is because Branch would send them over to Dr. Young and he would take care of their dental needs at no cost. So I learned a lot of humility from Branch, about his trials and tribulations. He was a tennis pro at the Piedmont Driving Club for a long time, well loved, hoped he would get the head job there, but his friend and mentor said, that won't happen in this day and age. And so he left and then came back to Washington Park. So Branch was just a tremendous mentor, friend, like that. And then later, of course, when I was teaching more and working with upper level kids, Jerry and I conversed a lot about kids and, about, the strategies and things like that. I mean, they're pretty basic and all and such as that. And actually Ruth, right after that, came into the picture. Ruth was a advocate for the best kids in the South. I mean, again, nationally,
Right.
The Wendy Whites, Elisa Spains, all those great players. And Ruth was, we learned a lot from Ruth because being in meetings with Ruth and how she would advocate for all players, really, all women players across the country, but especially the kids in the South. And they were good. I mean, and not just in Georgia, but Wendy and Lisa were great. You had Audra Keller, Susan Sloan, who's going in the Southern Hall of Fame.
Right.
A lot of great players, and Ruth coached them on the Whiteman Cup team for many years, and so you got to be pretty good friends with Ruth also too. So
well, Lisa Spain actually just got she's going into the ITA Women's Hall of Fame this fall. So
that's great. That's great. Well,
very well deserved. Former great University of Georgia player. So. But Bill, I think what most people, have come across you or know your tennis story is all the years at USTA Southern and the tremendous service that you gave not only Southern but the USTA and tennis in general with your role at Southern. All the players over the years, all the tournaments, and I know you started kind of in the junior team tennis world and then slid over to player development. Of course, that's where our paths crossed. I mean, so much respect for you and what you did at Southern. Is there something maybe you're most proud of? Not to put you on the spot, but I mean, you did so many great things for Southern. Is other than hiring Sandy Hastings and putting on a great tournament of his?
Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the hiring of Mary Hatfield was the key to Sandy and mine's success. Of course, so
right.
I know
she'll tell you.
See this, but and she will agree. She will totally agree. Actually, one of the early things in junior team tennis you mentioned was we didn't have there was no national sponsor, and sections were kind of on their own to do things. Actually worked out pretty well, but so in junior team tennis. We could go seek our own sponsor. So we sought team tennis. It was called at the time Domino's Team Tennis. So went to Chicago, met with Billie Jean and Ilana, and they had a PR guy. I forget his name. He was hilarious. But I got to know Billie well there, and Ilana still know them well, and they did some great things for us, and T-shirts every season. So if a local league had 6 seasons, they got 6 different T-shirts. Ooh. And it really, so we went from very few, at that time, the only juniors in Atlanta were Alta juniors. So we started junior team tennis there, the Dominoes, and Atlanta, of course, went to 1,000 pretty fast. Then across the section, we went to 5,000 within just a couple of years. And so that was one of the early things with team tennis. I think I did that for probably only about a year and a half, but getting to know Billie Jean and working with her and all. But on the player development side, things were early back then. It's the late Big Jim Russell was our advisor on that, on player development, I think, and everything. And so and as you know, you were in it. It's changed over the years. Our roles changed a lot. But being able to impact all those players and help them and all, and everything. And then, of course, back then, Southern has always been big, the biggest and all, but really not the strongest. But at that time, I felt like, we were way behind Southern Cal and Florida in strength and always. And Southern Cal and Florida is still strong. And, but I think we've made up some ground coming up to that, level wise and all. We still have good numbers and everything, but I think those were good challenges back then. Is the great players coming out of Southern Cal and Florida. We always felt like it was good for our players to play. You have to play those players to get better. Right. And our players didn't shy away from playing, and that was where the expansion of the tournament system came in. We added designated tournaments. I'm trying to think of our early sponsors. Eddie Gonzalez secured for us. Duckhead was an early sponsor.
Yeah. Remember the optimum schedule?
The
optimum schedule.
Yeah. That's right. That was I never could quite figure that one out. I know we and I sat in a lot of meetings there and looking at people who were doing this thing and optimum. It reminds me of something we have today. This what is this athlete thing called? This ADM? Is that
the American Development Model, which has a lot of great principles in it. I think.
Yeah. Optimum schedule had a few good things in it too.
It did.
It
did.
Yeah. So anyway.
Hard to find sometimes, but it did. So anyway, I don't want to give an opinion
That's
here.
True. Yeah. I'm looking at this ADM thing, and I was thinking, okay, well, sometimes we've tried to put all the players in the one little mold. Maybe that'll work now because it never has worked before. But anyway,
everybody has.
But all
their
the
path.
players over the years, the coaches and players over the years, the staff, we've always had in Southern in every state. Every state's always had a junior competition person, very strong. Rick Davison in Georgia, one of the. Yeah, I mean, one of the best really in the country. He could have been the PD director anywhere, but being the PD director and comp director in Georgia is as big a job as anywhere in the country. Sure. So we're fortunate to have Rick, and I had players that played for him at Tech, and John Desdunes when John was there. Another great coach from there. So I get to work with. They're really the reason there's so many good players. I mean, the same thing in Southern Cal. There's so many good coaches in Southern Cal that players just don't happen. Now the weather is perfect. You got a lot of courts and other things, but there are a lot of great coaches there, and we have a lot of great coaches in the South. That's why we have so many great players over the years, I feel like.
Yeah, well, it actually snowed, I believe, in LA last weekend. So
oh my
God, not always perfect, but mostly.
Yeah. Well, at least it didn't rain. It won't rain till October, right?
That's true. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know about that. Yeah. Well, I mean, and some of the section staff that's where we cross paths, and we had our professional philosophical disagreements, but I think I've said this to you before. I've always had so much admiration and respect for the passion you have for the player. You're always advocating on their behalf. We, a lot of times we would agree to come to a consensus or maybe an agree to disagree, but it didn't affect our relationship. Something that I'll always value about you. And Andrea Calvert Sanders was a great from Midwest. Really enjoyed.
She was the best.
Fantastic.
She was the best. Midwest became so strong under Andrea, and she just developed their system so well. And I mean, then now they're a force. I mean, and that was all due to her work over those years. I felt like so.
Yeah. So Bill, last thing here, you were inducted into the Sessions Family Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame in 2019. I know that meant a lot to you. You were inducted along with Betsy Butler. We've talked about this before, but what does the Georgia Hall of Fame mean to you?
over the years, I hadn't thought about it too much, and I saw the folks that I knew that went in, so well deserved. And then, one thing that really affected me is, and I was so glad this happened, that before Branch Curington, after he retired,
Right.
and I'd visit, we'd have lunch once a year. Usually I'd go pick him up. We'd have lunch over by the airport where he lived. And he showed me, I looked at all of his accolades he'd collected over the years. Welby Van Horn, he worked for, the great coach back then, who I think was at the Piedmont Driving Club, actually. And he'd show me all those accolades, and tell me that, boy, he hoped that he wished that one day he would be in the Georgia Hall of Fame. And, I looked at all those things he had done, and I went, yes. And of course, Richard Howell and the Georgia Hall of Fame did induct him. And I was so glad for that. And it meant so much to him that it kind of took on a different meaning for me too. And looking at Branch and all the other people I know that are in the Hall of Fame, the coaches and players, that it's such a special honor. And then, for me to be inducted and be in there with them, it really was a tremendous honor. Betsy Butler was a special one to go in with, because I was there when she played.
Right.
I think I mentioned that in my thing. I was there when she played Bitsy after Bobby Riggs played Billie Jean, and believe me, it didn't go 3 sets. It was, and she won the $1,000 hands down.
Right.
And again, Betsy was about the same age, because she was playing high school when I played and all. But Betsy was a tremendous player. I mean, I would have loved to have seen her play today. I really don't have any doubt that if Betsy Butler played today, she'd potentially be top 10 in the world, really.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's the highest honor I've received, and it is a tremendous honor, because there's so many players and administrators, coaches that have come out of Georgia. They're in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
So I was very honored.
Well, Bill, we have a little presentation here. We're going to virtually. We'll get this to you in due course, but if you can see it on the screen, it says 2020 USTA Georgia Ruth Ryner Lay Award for Lifetime Achievement, Bill Ozaki. Beautiful vase. Hope you enjoy that. We will get that to you, but just want to say a heartfelt, sincere thank you for all you've done for our sport, for our state. Very worthy award winner of this prestigious award, and hopefully you'll stay in tennis for a little bit. I know you're still a little bit involved, so please don't be a stranger, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Darren. Hopefully be back playing this year. I've got the first shot, get the second one soon, back on the court. So Thank you very much.
Well, folks, that's the 2020 USTA Georgia Ruth Ryner Lay Award for Lifetime Achievement recipient, Bill Ozaki. We appreciate him joining us this morning. Hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for watching. Take care.